Today we are going to start a new topic, that is hypothalamus. As the name suggests, hypothalamus is a structure which lies just below the thalamus. It is hypo means below and thalamus is thalamus. It is a diencephalic structure. Diencephalon, it is the posterior part of the forebrain which contains many structures like epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus, third ventricle, etc. Hypothalamus, actually it is a very small structure. The weight of hypothalamus is approximately 4 grams, and the weight of an adult human being is approximately 1400 grams. So we can see that how tiny structure the hypothalamus is. It is the weight is 4 grams, but in spite of that, the hypothalamus affects almost each and every cell of the body. Okay, so hypothalamus is a very small structure, but in spite of that, it affects almost each and every cell of the body, and this is done with the association of mainly 3 systems. The hypothalamus affects all the cells and system of the body in association with 3 systems. That is, one is limbic system. It is limbic system. The second one is autonomic nervous system, and the third one is endocrine system. The limbic system in detail we will discuss later on, but in short, the limbic system is mainly responsible for our emotion, motivation, memory, and all other aspects of behavior. Our entire personality is dependent on, or it is regulated by, limbic system. Okay, our emotions, they are related with limbic system. That is, हमें क्या अच्छा लगता है, whether we want to live with, we want to help other, और हमें दूसरे के साथ झगड़ा करना अच्छा लगता है. What is our emotion? We are very emotional or less emotional. That is determined by limbic system. Then our motivation, what we want to do, that is also dependent on limbic system. Limbic system has a reward and punishment center. Actually, anything, any circumstances, any instances which stimulates reward center in our life, we want to do that repeatedly. And the circumstance or event which stimulates our punishment center, we try to avoid them. For example, घर में हम छोटे बच्चों के साथ देखते हैं कि 1 to 10 लिख दो तो आपको एक चॉकलेट देंगे. Because we want to stimulate the reward center, so the child will want repeatedly to do the activity. इवन 10, 12, 11 के बच्चों को आप देखोगे कि पेरेंट्स कभी कभी बोलते हैं कि नीट क्लियर कर लो, जेई क्लियर कर लो, आपको आईफोन दिया जाएगा. सो व्हाट इज दैट? इन सच ए वे वी वांट टू स्टिमुलेट द रिवार्ड सेंटर सो दैट द चाइल्ड विल गेट मोटिवेटेड एंड दे विल ट्राई टू क्लियर, और दे विल ट्राई हार्डर एंड हार्डर. On the other side, if any circumstance is stimulating our punishment center, then we try to avoid that. Like, अगर किसी को झगड़ा नहीं पसंद है, झगड़ा होता है कहीं पे, तो that is stimulating our punishment center, तो हम झगड़े से दूर चले जाते हैं. There are some circumstances like कुछ students होते हैं जिन्हें मैथ्स नहीं पसंद आता है, so they are starting avoiding mathematics, एंड उनका स्ट्रीम अलग हो जाता है. कुछ बच्चे होते हैं जिनको कि साइंस ही बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं होता है. सो ओवरऑल द थिंग इज दैट the things which our personality, depending on the things that anything is affecting our reward center or punishment center. Our memory is also related with this reward and punishment center. Like anything, any event which is not affecting our reward center or punishment center, that event does not go into the long-term memory. But things or events we are touching the reward center or even the punishment center, that will go into our long-term memory. So these are in nutshell the functions of limbic system, and hypothalamus is a part of limbic system. So it controls our behavioral aspect of individual. The second system is autonomic nervous system. You all know the autonomic nervous system. It controls cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. That is, except skeletal muscle, it controls cardiac and smooth muscle. And it is of two types, parasympathetic and sympathetic system. And almost they have opposite effect. For example, if we stimulate the parasympathetic system in case of cardiac muscle, then what will happen? It will cause positive, chronotropic, inotropic, bromotropic and bathmotropic effect. That means it increases the rate of contraction, force of contraction, excitability and conductivity. Just opposite effect is seen with stimulation of sympathetic system. Another example is in case of gastrointestinal system. The stimulation of parasympathetic system, it increases the motility of GIT. But the stimulation of sympathetic system decreases the motility of GIT. So these are few examples. You know many other examples how the autonomic nervous system controls the body. And this autonomic nervous system, in turn, it is under control of hypothalamus. There are some areas in the hypothalamus which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and some areas in the hypothalamus which stimulates parasympathetic nervous system. Now the third system is endocrine system. You all know there are many endocrine glands in our body like pituitary, adrenal, thyroid, parathyroid, pancreas, and they secrete hormones. These hormones, they affect almost all the system of the body, and these endocrine glands, they are under control of releasing and or inhibiting hormone secreted by hypothalamus. So we can see such a tiny structure whose weight is around 4 grams. It affects how it affects almost all the structure of the body. Now next, first we know about where it is situated, where actually the hypothalamus is situated, and then we will discuss the structure of hypothalamus and its nuclei. This is one figure where you can see that in orange color, this is one hypothalamus, this is another hypothalamus, right and left, this is left thalamus, this is right thalamus, and below that there is hypothalamus. In the next figure, we will see the relation of hypothalamus in sagittal section of the brain. And here we can see, this is the sagittal section of brain. This area, green area, it is midbrain. This is pons, medulla, and then there is spinal cord. Above the midbrain, there is, in pinkish purple color, there is thalamus, and below the thalamus, there is hypothalamus. In the next picture, I just want to make it simpler. It is hand-drawn figure, so the components may be out of proportion, but we can simplify the previous figure with this. Here in the blue figure, it is midbrain, then pons, then it is medulla, spinal cord, Above the midbrain, there is thalamus, which we can identify by the inverted Y structure, which is internal medullary lamina. Now, thalamus is in brown color. From below the thalamus, a sheet of gray matter that I have drawn in green color, a sheet of gray matter is extending forward. Okay, you know the forward there is frontal lobe, and this structure in the red is optic chiasma. So a sheet of gray matter from below the thalamus is extending forward up to the optic chiasma, and this sheet of gray matter is actually hypothalamus. So from this picture we can identify one thing, that is two boundary we can define here. The anterior boundary of hypothalamus is optic chiasma. Here is frontal lobe, eyes, optic tract, and here in the red it is optic chiasma. So the sheet of gray matter or hypothalamus is extending from thalamus to optic chiasma. So anterior boundary is optic chiasma. Posteriorly and superiorly, because it is extending from below the thalamus, so the posterior-superior relation is with the thalamus, but from the thalamus, hypothalamus is separated by a sulcus which is known as hypothalamic sulcus. Okay, so posterior-superiorly it is separated from thalamus by hypothalamic sulcus, and here you can see the midbrain is also in connection, it is in relation with hypothalamus, and it is the part of interpeduncular fossa which is in relation with hypothalamus. So if you can remember, it is the interpeduncular fossa of the midbrain, it is very good. If not, you can write down also the upper part of midbrain is in relation, posterior relation. So anteriorly it is optic chiasma, posterior-superiorly it is separated from thalamus by hypothalamic sulcus, and posteriorly it is related with interpeduncular fossa or upper part of midbrain. Here we can see that if we trace the inferior portion of the hypothalamus, this green line we have discussed up to this green line lower, but if we trace the inferior surface of hypothalamus, if we go from anterior to posteriorly, first anteriorly there is a midline swelling. This midline swelling is known as tuber cinereum. Anteriorly on the inferior surface of hypothalamus, there is midline swelling which is known as tuber cinereum. This is the part of tuber cinereum which extend as infundibulum, and infundibulum expands forming anterior and posterior pituitary. More posteriorly, this is the midline swelling, so it is single swelling. More posteriorly on either side, we see two swelling, that is mammillary body. Mammillary body, it is two in number, one on the left side and other on the right side. So inferiorly we can see the hypothalamus is related. Antero-inferiorly there is tuber cinereum, and posterior-inferiorly there is mammillary body. Although the tuber cinereum and the mammillary body, they are considered as a part of hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is this sheet of gray matter which is colored here in green. Then the lower swelling, that is tuber cinereum, lower, or you can say antero-inferior midline swelling, that is tuber cinereum, and posterior-inferior swelling, that is mammillary body. So all these are included in hypothalamus. thalamus. Now in another section, till now we have discussed the relation of hypothalamus with thalamus and midbrain. But there is one more important structure in the hypothalamus, and that is the third ventricle, which lies between two thalamus. So this is the another figure showing the relation of hypothalamus with third ventricle. And here you can see this area in gray, these two, they are thalamus, and in between the thalamus it is third ventricle. Behind the thalamus or behind the third ventricle, there you can see a green area which is actually the area of hypothalamus. This is the hypothalamus, which is beginning below the thalamus and extending anteriorly up to the optic chiasma, which is not shown in this figure. These are optic tracts. Two optic tracts are there and they fuse and form optic chiasma here. So it is the hypothalamus. It is extending from below the thalamus anteriorly up to the optic chiasma. Again, to simplify the previous figure, just I have drawn this figure so that you can understand easily. Please ignore the proportions. Okay, so this is another view in which you can see these are in the brown color and inverted Y shape intermedullary lamina. We can identify these two are thalamus, and in between the thalamus in blue color, it is third ventricle. On either side of the third ventricle, you can see entire green structure, that is hypothalamus. The sheet of hypothalamus, below it is tuberous cinereum, and at the posterior end there is mammillary body. This is the infundibulum, which expands into the anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Now we can understand it in a better way with the help of our hand. Focus होगा क्या? गिरीश भाई, हाथ पे फोकस होगा? हाथ पे फोकस करो. Okay, so we can identify this in a better way with the help of this our two hands. We can say that our two palms, it is like a sheet of grey matter, means it is like hypothalamus. These two thumb, this is like two thalami. Between these two thalamus, there is third ventricle. If we trace inferiorly, the midline swelling will be tuberous cinereum, and two posterior swelling on either side, that is mammillary body. So here is third ventricle. So we can understand that hypothalamus is forming the floor, क्योंकि hypothalamus के ऊपर से third ventricle है. So it is forming the floor of third ventricle, and it is also forming the lower lateral border of third ventricle. So that is, these two are thalamus. These, our palm, left and right, that is like hypothalamus. Between these two palm, the midline structure is third ventricle. Inferiorly, there is one midline swelling, that is tuberous cinereum, two posterior swelling, that is mammillary body, and it is forming the floor and lower lateral border or lower lateral wall of third ventricle. So again we can recall some of the boundaries, that is anteriorly it is optic chiasma, posteriorly, posterior-superiorly there is hypothalamic sulcus which separates hypothalamus from thalamus. Posteriorly, it is related with interpeduncular fossa or the upper part of the midbrain. Then inferiorly, antero-inferiorly, there is tuberous cinerarium. Posterior-inferiorly, there is mammillary body. It is forming the floor and lateral wall of the third ventricle. Now one boundary is left, and that is lateral boundary. Okay. So to understand the lateral boundary, just we will recall a figure which I think you know very well. It is the figure of ascending tract. Okay, anterolateral system, ascending tract. Here there is thalamus. So here is thalamus. Please recall that the fibers of anterolateral system, they terminate into the ventrolateral basal nuclei of thalamus, and from there the fiber emerges and enter into the internal capsule. Okay, so from here you can understand that by the side of thalamus, on either side of the thalamus, there is internal capsule. These two are thalami. In between there is third ventricle, and below third ventricle there is hypothalamus, and on either side there is internal capsule. So you can understand that the lateral margin or the lateral border of hypothalamus is formed by internal capsule. Okay, so that completes the total boundary of hypothalamus. Again, one revision, that is quick revision. Anteriorly it is optic chiasma, posterior superiorly hypothalamic sulcus separating it from thalamus. Posteriorly it is interpedunculaar fossa or upper part of midbrain. It is forming the floor and lower lateral wall of third ventricle. Antero-inferiorly there is tuberous cinerarium, posterior-inferiorly there is mammillary bodies. Then lateral boundary is formed by internal capsule. So that completes the boundary of hypothalamus. Now next, one thing just I have forgotten to explain, that is the third ventricle. It divides the hypothalamus into two parts. Left part or left half of hypothalamus and right half of hypothalamus. Remember, hypothalamus is a midline structure. It is a single structure, so never say right hypothalamus and left hypothalamus. Then it will become that there are two hypothalamus. Okay, so it is the right part of hypothalamus or right half of hypothalamus, and the second one, and the left half or left part of hypothalamus. This is the left part of hypothalamus, left half of hypothalamus, and this is the right half of hypothalamus. Now this left and right half, they are again divided by some structure into lateral and medial half. Okay, so we can say actually the hypothalamus is divided into four half. First it is divided into left half, right half, then there is left lateral, left medial, and then right is right medial and right lateral. Okay, so what are the structure which divides the hypothalamus into left and right? That we will go in detail. And here is a figure. Again you can see there is a structure which is curved, elevated structure in the third ventricle, inferior wall of the third ventricle, that is known as hippocampus. In hippocampus there is a special area that is known as alveus. From alveus the many fibers arises which are known as fornix, and they all join together, they are known as fimbria, and all these fibers join together and they form the fornix. That fornix ultimately it enters into the hypothalamus. Again in the next figure, just I have made the previous figure easier to understand, and here you can see in the pink It is the lower part in the pink, it is hippocampus. From hippocampus, the fornix is arising. The fibers move first backward, upward, forward, downward, and again backward. And ultimately it gets inserted into the substance of hypothalamus. Here it is inserting. It is the left half of hypothalamus and it is the right half of hypothalamus. So the left fornix, it is entering into the substance of left half of hypothalamus, and right fornix is entering into the right half of hypothalamus. In between these two, it is the area of third ventricle, which is shown in blue color. Now these fibers of fornix, they pass backward, okay, because here is thalamus and thalamus lies posteriorly. So these fibers, they pass backward through the substance of hypothalamus up to the mammillary body. Actually, these fibers which enter into the mammillary body, they are post-commissural fibers. From mammillary body, these fibers, they emerges out. यहाँ से fibers बाहर की ओर निकल रहे हैं, bundle of fibers, and they enter into the anterior nuclei of thalamus. And these bundle of fibers, they are originating from mammillary body and they are getting inserted into the thalamus. So this tract is known as mammillothalamic tract. From mammillary body to thalamus, these fibers are known as mammillothalamic tract. So the importance of describing this at this point, these fibers at this point is that you can see if we draw an imaginary line, joining the entry of fornix and the exit of mammillothalamic tract. Entry of fornix and exit of mammillothalamic tract. If we join these 2 points and extend it anteriorly and posteriorly on the left side as well as on the right side, then what we will see? It will divide the left side into a lateral part and a medial part. It divides the right side into a lateral part and a medial part. Okay, here you can see it is drawn in a better way. In red color, it is the fornix which is arising from the hippocampus. Hippocampus, it is a part of limbic system. It is arising from hippocampus and entering into the substance of hypothalamus. Then it runs through the substance of hypothalamus and the fiber emerges and enter into the thalamus, which is known as mammillothalamic tract. So if we make or draw an imaginary line joining these 2 points, entry of fornix and exit of mammillothalamic tract, you can clearly see it divides the hypothalamus into a lateral and medial part. So total, we can say that in the green color it is the hypothalamus. In the blue color, it is third ventricle, which is dividing the hypothalamus into a left part entire, and this entire, it is the right part of hypothalamus. Then imaginary line passing through entry of fornix and exit of mammillothalamic tract, it divides, it is in a lateral half and a medial half. On this side also, right side also, it is the lateral half and a medial half. So this is, hypothalamus is being divided into 4 parts. Left lateral, left medial, right medial and right lateral part. One more tract which lies here, bundle of fibers, which arises from the septal area, these fibers from above, from septal area, and some from orbitofrontal area. They enter into the lateral part of the hypothalamus, both on right and left side. They crosses the entire lateral part of the hypothalamus and they go to the hippocampus as well as many other area of limbic system. So it is a very important pathway through which hypothalamus is connected with limbic system, and this is afferent as well as afferent. Fibers from lateral hypothalamus goes to septal area or orbitofrontal area, or the fibers from septal and orbitofrontal area, they also come to the lateral hypothalamus. So these medial forebrain bundle, it is afferent pathway as well as efferent pathway. Okay, so till now we we have gone through the 4 pathways. कौन से 4 हैं? First come to the afferent pathway, means pathway which are entering or coming to the hypothalamus. First afferent pathway is fornix and the second afferent pathway is medial forebrain bundle. 2 afferent pathway हो गए. For efferent pathway, one is mammillothalamic tract and another is medial forebrain bundle. So medial forebrain bundle is afferent as well as efferent pathway. The fornix is efferent path and the mammillothalamic tract, they form. Fornix is afferent and mammillothalamic tract, they form the efferent pathway. And this medial forebrain bundle, it is important, it is a very important reward center also in the case of limbic system, which we will discuss in the class of limbic system. Okay, so this completes the physiological anatomy of hypothalamus. It is physiological anatomy, that means only those anatomical aspect which is important to understand the physiology of hypothalamus. Okay, so after this we will start the structure and function of hypothalamus. So please, a quick revision, the question which is asked in your exam, that is the first question about the hypothalamus is boundaries of hypothalamus, and now we can easily recall the boundary. Anteriorly, optic chiasma, posterior-superiorly, hypothalamic sulcus which separates the hypothalamus from thalamus, posteriorly, interpeduncular fossa or upper part of midbrain, then inferiorly, antero-inferiorly, it is tuberous cinerarium. Posterior-inferiorly, there are 2 mammillary bodies. It forms the floor and lower lateral boundary of third ventricle, and on either side, that is lateral boundary, is formed by internal capsule. The entire hypothalamus is divided into 4 parts with the help of third ventricle, by fornix and mammillothalamic tract. Third ventricle is dividing it into the left half and the right half. The entry of fornix and exit of mammillothalamic tract is divided into a lateral and medial part. So the left lateral, left medial, and right is right lateral and right medial part. Okay, so this is important because when we will discuss the function of hypothalamus, some nuclei, they are situated at the lateral portion of the hypothalamus. There are some nuclei which are situated at the medial portion of hypothalamus. Some nuclei are situated around the ventricle. They are known as periventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. So the next question after the boundary of hypothalamus, it is asked describe the nuclei of hypothalamus, and sometimes it is asked that describe the structure of hypothalamus. So these two things, they are same. The structure of hypothalamus means you have to describe the nuclei of hypothalamus. Okay, so first thing, just I want to make it clear that there are some controversies, or you will find many different explanation in different books or in internet also, that the situation of these nuclei and their function, it is their actual situation may vary in different books. There are many overlapping in the functions of these nuclei. So here I am briefing the situation of these nuclei and functions of these nuclei, which are given in Snell's, Guyton's and Genome. These three books, what is written, given in these three books, that I am summarizing here. Okay, so it is a figure we will discuss later on, that some nuclei, just I want to name here first. The lateral part of the hypothalamus, here in the green you can see lateral hypothalamic area or lateral hypothalamic nuclei. So the lateral part of hypothalamus has only one nuclei, and that is the lateral hypothalamic nuclei. Okay, so there is one nuclei in the lateral part of the hypothalamus, that is lateral hypothalamic nuclei. Now this is, if we consider the medial hypothalamus, the medial hypothalamus from anterior to posteriorly, it is divided into 4 regions. This is, here you can see, this is optic nerve and this is optic chiasma. Okay, then this is the infundibulum and pituitary. So the area in front of or anterior to the optic chiasma, that is known as preoptic area. Area in front of optic chiasma is preoptic area. Area just above the optic chiasma is supraoptic area. Then there is area, this is the area which is related with tuberous cinerarium. So this part is known as tuberal area. And then there is, this is the mammillary body. So this part is known as mammillary area. And these area, they contains different types of nuclei. One thing about preoptic nuclei, that it is partially situated in the lateral area and partially situated in the medial area, but the major part is located in the medial hypothalamus. So we will discuss it along with the medial part of the hypothalamus. Now first we will discuss the nuclei which is situated in the lateral part of hypothalamus. And here you can see, just with the help of emoji, I want to simplify the expression so that you can remember that what type of emoji was here and what type of emoji was here. This is the two thalami, and in between there is third ventricle. Sir, time pata nahi chal raha actually. Okay sir, bol. Okay, so these are two thalami, and in between it is the third ventricle. Okay, so this area, this is the lateral hypothalamic area, and this area, it is the ventral hypothalamic area. The lateral hypothalamic area, it contains only one nuclei, that is the lateral hypothalamic nuclei. But the description of lateral hypothalamic nuclei is not complete without describing the nuclei which lies in the medial hypothalamus, and its name is ventromedial nucleus of the hypothalamus. Okay, so here you can see the expression of the emoji. The emoji which is in the lateral hypothalamic area, that is the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, it seems to be angry. And the emoji here in the ventromedial nucleus, it is looks like a happy nuclei. So why these two types of nuclei are here? So first we will describe about the lateral hypothalamic nuclei. Actually, the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, here it is in green color, lateral hypothalamic nuclei. That is the center for hunger. Lateral hypothalamic nuclei is known as hunger center. Along with hunger center, it is the center for thirst as well as anger. Okay. So lateral hypothalamic nuclei is a center for hunger, thirst and anger. So the emoji is, the expression of emoji is, it is like angry. So what happens? We all experience that when we are very hungry, we are angry also. जब हमें भूख लगता है, क्या होता है, हम बहुत भूखे हैं, जोर की भूख लगी है और हमें कहा जाए कि ये कर लो पहले, वो कर लो पहले, कुछ भी कहा जाए तो हमें बहुत जल्दी गुस्सा आता है. The center of hunger and anger, they are situated in the lateral hypothalamic nuclei. Okay? Just by the side of lateral hypothalamic nuclei, these area between the thalamus and these nuclei, these are the areas for sympathetic activity. Okay, that means the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, that is the hunger and anger center, is closely related with the center for sympathetic activity. So when we become hungry, we become angry and our sympathetic activity goes up. But just opposite, there is another emoji in the medial part of the hypothalamus, which is known as ventromedial nuclei. It is known as satiety center. It is a happy nucleus. What is the meaning of satiety? When we are hungry, we go on eating and eating. And at one point, we say, बस अब और नहीं. We cannot even take a single bite. So that point is known as satiety. When we are fully satisfied, fully fed with food, a point is reached which is known as the satiety. So this ventromedial nucleus is satiety center. And now how these two nuclei are interrelated. The ventromedial nucleus, it has some receptors which are known as glucoreceptors. That means they can sense the presence or amount of glucose in the blood. So when we eat food, our blood sugar level increases. Of course, within a limit, our blood glucose level increases. That is sensed by this glucoreceptor of ventromedial nucleus. So ventromedial nucleus come to understand that the action potential, it is generated in the ventromedial nucleus and the patient feel satiated. The ventromedial nucleus, it has inhibitory effect over the lateral thalamic nucleus. Ventromedial nucleus inhibits the function of lateral thalamic nucleus. So when our blood glucose level is more, these action potentials are generated in the ventromedial nucleus. This ventromedial nucleus inhibits the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, and so we do not more feel hungry. Again, after some time, say 3, 4, 5 hours, the blood glucose level gradually starts declining. So the inhibitory effect of ventromedial nucleus onto the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, it starts decreasing gradually. So what happens? Gradually we starts feeling hungry. After some time we starts feeling more and more hungry, and again when we eat some food, blood glucose level increases, and that leads to increased action potential in the ventromedial nucleus, and that ventromedial nucleus inhibits the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, and we feel satiety, we feel happy. One clinical aspect is here that in case of hypoglycemia, that means the condition when blood glucose level is very much low, then what happens? Like treating diabetic patient with insulin, sometimes hypoglycemic episode occurs. So what happens in such cases? The blood glucose level is low, so this ventromedial nucleus, now it cannot inhibit the lateral hypothalamic nucleus. So what happens? Gradually the lateral hypothalamic nucleus become more and more active. More and more action potential are generated in the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, and it affects the surrounding areas also, which is the area for sympathetic stimulation. So in case of hypoglycemia, there are features of sympathetic stimulation also, and those features are usually tachycardia, palpitation, sweating, anxiety, tremor, etc. So that is due to overactivity of the lateral hypothalamic nuclei along with the overactivity of sympathetic area adjacent to lateral hypothalamic nuclei. So the summary is that the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, it is the only nuclei in the lateral hypothalamic area. Of course, the preoptic nuclei, some part of the preoptic nuclei lies in the lateral hypothalamic area, and the major part of the preoptic nuclei lies in the medial hypothalamic area. But mainly it is the lateral hypothalamic nucleus which lies in the lateral hypothalamic area, and which is the center for hunger, anger, and thirst. And we have discussed one area, that is ventromedial nucleus, which is the center for satiety, and it lies in the medial hypothalamic area. Now clinically or experimentally, what is done, what is seen, is that if we stimulate the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, we are stimulating the lateral hypothalamic nucleus bilaterally. So we are stimulating means we are increasing the action potential in lateral hypothalamic nucleus. So such animals, usually the experiments are done on animals. So what will happen in such animals? The animals will they will feel more and more hungry, and they will continue to eat. खाता ही रहेगा, but भूखा ही रहेगा. Okay, but in spite of that, इतना खाने के बावजूद भी they always feel irritable, they feel hungry, and gradually they become more and more, they gain more and more weight, and they become obese. And such type of obesity is also known as hypothalamic obesity. Means if we stimulate the hunger center, that is the lateral hypothalamic area, the animal or the individual will become more and more hungry, they will eat more and more, and gradually they will develop obesity, which is known as hypothalamic obesity. Just opposite is, if we stimulate the ventromedial nucleus, which is satiety center, then what will happen? In spite of the fact that the person or the animal is hungry, he or she has not taken anything from 2 or 3 days, but the animal will feel satiated, and he or she is happy also. कुछ नहीं खाया होगा 2-3 दिन से, आप उसे खाना दो तो भी वो नहीं खाएगा, and he is feeling very calm, quiet and satiated. Okay, but due to this, they will refuse to take food. So gradually and gradually they lose their weight, and a condition develop which is known as cachexia. Okay, so they become very much lean and thin, that is cachexia will develop. So when we stimulate the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, obesity will develop, and when we stimulate the medial hypothalamic nucleus, cachexia will develop. Just opposite, if we destroy the lateral hypothalamic nucleus or destroy the ventromedial nucleus, then what will happen? When we destroy the lateral hypothalamic nucleus experimentally, or maybe due to some tumor or any disease, if the lateral hypothalamic nucleus is destroyed, that means hunger center is destroyed. So the person will not feel hungry, and gradually they will lose weight. And when we destroy the ventromedial nucleus experimentally or due to some disease, then what will happen? There will be no satiety. ऐसा लगेगा ही नहीं कि बहुत खा लिया. तो फिर क्या होगा? This is destroyed. That means now hunger center or lateral hypothalamic nucleus cannot be inhibited. So what will happen? The person will always feel hungry and obesity will develop. So the summary is that if we stimulate the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, obesity will develop. If we stimulate the ventromedial nuclei, there will be cachexia. If we destroy the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, cachexia will develop. And if we destroy the ventromedial nucleus, obesity will develop. In the next class, we will describe the nuclei of medial hypothalamic area and their functions. Thank you.